In front of all his colleagues, he tightly embraced another woman and raised a glass of champagne to celebrate, leaving behind the burden. That burden was his pregnant wife. The entire room erupted in laughter. Applause thundered. Camera flashes flickered. The gala's pulsing music blended into a symphony that buried the last shred of respect. Rosalind stood there, hand resting on her belly, feeling her unborn child stir amidst her mother's humiliation. But no one knew the woman they pitied was the one signing their paychecks. The owner of the company Declan was so eagerly trying to seize control of. He was drunk on his victory. She was cold with clarity. Tonight, he raised his glass to the future, Declan, but she was the one who would shape it. Crystal chandeliers cast golden rain across the marble floors of the Boston Museum. Everything was designed to dazzle. Champagne, laughter, glittering gowns, and the pride of those who believed themselves untouchable. Declan Finch was the center of that universe, his Brioni suit tailored to perfection, his smile bold to the point of arrogance. He strode among the powerful, as if the sky belonged to him. Beside him, Rosalind, his wife, appeared in an emerald green gown, her hands gently cradling her 6-month pregnant belly. People greeted her with polite glances. She was Declan's wife, the quiet, gentle woman, always standing in her husband's glow. No one noticed the sharpness in her observation, the silence not of weakness, but of listening. Declan once said, "You're the calm in my storm." She believed him, until tonight. In a corner, under golden light, another woman approached Bianca Slater. Younger, louder, draped in a fiery red dress, like a declaration of war. When Declan saw Bianca, his smile shifted, softer, more brazen. Their touch was unapologetic. Rosalind saw everything. No anger, no panic, just a chilling emptiness spreading from her chest to her belly. She once thought love could redeem ambition. She was wrong. Declan didn't glance at his wife once that evening. He was too busy shaking hands, laughing loudly, talking of global vision and innovative futures. Each word he spoke was a small bullet, slowly piercing the memory of the man she once trusted. When the microphone crackled, the gala reached its climax. The current CEO took the stage, praising Beaumont Innovations, speaking of the future, then announcing, "And the man I believe will lead us into a new era, Declan Finch." Applause exploded. Champagne corks popped like fireworks. Declan ascended the podium, pulling Bianca along a gesture both reckless and shameless. Rosalind heard the murmurs, the stifled laughs, and realized the crowd was witnessing not just praise, but a public humiliation on display. Declan gripped the microphone. His voice dripped like honey, laced with cold cruelty. "Thank you all. A great role demands great sacrifice. It demands letting go of what holds us back, the burdens that slow us down." He turned, locking eyes with Rosalind. His gaze narrowed, his smile curled. "And tonight, I toast to leaving all those burdens behind." The air froze. Laughter sputtered awkwardly. Everyone understood. They saw the pregnant wife and they laughed. Some averted their eyes, some shook their heads. No one approached her. That silence was crueler than any mockery. Rosalind stood, hand on her belly. Her child stirred faintly, as if reacting to the noise and her mother's shame. In that moment, amid the wine and lights, something in her shattered, but something else arose. Not despair, realization. As Declan raised his glass, light glinted off it like a blade. He spoke of the future, of victory, of cutting away the unnecessary. He thought he'd seized power. He didn't know the woman quietly leaving the room held all the leverage over the empire he worshipped. Rosalind didn't cry. She didn't flee. She walked, step by step, slow and proud, past hundreds of eyes. Each step was a silent vow. "You've touched fire, Declan." Outside, Boston's night wind was cold and dry. The city glowed like a map of dreams and betrayals. Rosalind paused before a glass window, her reflection staring back a woman with eyes deeper, sharper, more dangerous than any smile Declan had ever seen. A gust of wind carried the whisper of her father's voice, William Beaumont, the company's founder. "True power doesn't belong to the loudest, but to those who know when to stay silent." She understood now. Her silence was no longer weakness. It was the beginning of strategy. The taxi stopped before the riverside high-rise, the penthouse where they lived. where he'd once boasted of our first triumph. Now it was an empty shell. The door closed behind her like the lock of a prison opening in reverse. Inside, the dim glow of a bedside lamp fell on white walls. Where their wedding photo still hung, he beamed brightly. She leaned on his shoulder, her eyes serene. Rosalind stared at the photo for a long time. Then she gently removed the frame, setting it face down. No tears, no trembling, only cold precision in every move. She pulled out her phone, scrolling to a contact she hadn't called in years. The name read, Arthur Pembroke. She pressed call. 3 rings. A deep, solemn voice answered. Rosalind, I suppose it's time? She nodded, though he couldn't see. Yes, Arthur, it's time. Across the city, confetti from the gala still floated like silver snow. Declan Finch laughed, believing he'd won the world. He didn't know the moment he called the woman he betrayed a burden was the moment he signed his own death warrant. The penthouse, perched atop the riverside glass tower, once symbolized the love and success Declan Finch loved to flaunt. Tonight, it became a battlefield. When Rosalind stepped inside, the air was cold as metal. Light from the river reflected on the walls, painting the room in lonely shades of gray-blue. She went straight to the bedroom. On the vanity, her wedding ring gleamed under the lamp, a perfect circle of deceit. She slipped it off, setting it down. The faint clink echoed heavy, like a verdict. Then she pulled a suitcase from the closet, her movements precise, as if preparing for a board meeting, not the end of a marriage. Declan's suits were folded flat, placed neatly. Polished shoes, Swiss watches, silk ties, each item arranged like evidence. She worked in silence, only the steady zip of the suitcase cut through, slicing the air like a countdown clock. 2 hours later, 6 suitcases stood in a row by the door, alongside 3 black leather boxes labeled personal. On the table, a white envelope bore a single line in her elegant script, "Don't come back." Just then, the sound of a key in the lock. The door swung open, and Declan stumbled in, reeking of champagne and another woman's perfume. His jacket hung open, his eyes drunk with triumph. Seeing the suitcases, his smug smile faltered. "What the hell is this?" he blurted, laughter in his voice. "Roz, what are you doing? Planning a getaway?" Rosalind stepped out from the living room. Gone was the emerald gown, replaced by a simple black dress, hair tied back, her face calm as marble. The dim light made her eyes glint coldly. "No," she said, voice even and low. "You're the one leaving." Declan raised an eyebrow, then laughed as if hearing a bad joke. "You're kidding, right? You're drunk, Roz? This is our place, remember? Stop the drama." Rosalind didn't move. "No, Declan. This is my place. I bought it with my money, from my account. You just lived here like everything else. You were only borrowing." A flicker of confusion crossed his face, but arrogance quickly returned. "Your money? That little inheritance from your dad? Don't be delusional, Roz. I paid for most of this, and we're married. You can't kick me out like some employee." Rosalind took a step closer, her voice dropping, sharp as a blade. "You don't understand. You were fired before you even walked through that door." She pointed to the suitcases. "Your things are packed. You can call a car, or I'll call one for you, but you're leaving this apartment tonight." Declan squinted, liquor slurring his voice. "You're crazy. You're pregnant and hormonal. Go to bed. We'll talk tomorrow. I can't deal with this melodrama." He tried to brush past her, but Rosalind stepped in his way. "This isn't melodrama," she said softly. "This is an order." The way she spoke made him freeze. It wasn't the voice of a docile wife, it was the voice of someone with authority, a chilling confidence that sobered him despite the alcohol. "Who do you think you are?" he growled. "The person you underestimated," she replied, eyes locked on his. "The person you called a burden, and the one who'll make you learn what it means to lose everything." Declan scoffed. "Sounds dramatic. What, you'll call the cops?" "No," she said. "I've already called building security. They'll be here in minutes. If you're still here, they'll escort you out." Silence stretched. His eyes reddened, his voice rising. "Rose, you can't do this. I'm the one up for Global Strategy VP at Beaumont. What are you?" She cut in, voice low but heavy. "You're an employee, one of thousands paid by my company." The words crashed like breaking glass. Declan froze, then laughed, but it was hollow. Your company. Roz, what the hell are you talking about? You heard me, she said, stepping closer, eyes unblinking. The company you work for, where you were just nominated, it's my father's legacy. I'm the majority shareholder. I'm the owner of Beaumont Innovations. And you, Declan, are just an ambitious employee, willing to sell your soul to climb. His jaw dropped. He laughed again, weaker. No way. You're just… Quiet, she snapped. I don't need you to believe me. Tomorrow, you'll get a letter from my lawyer, Genevieve Dubois. The prenup you signed is ironclad, ensuring I lose nothing but what I choose to give. And trust me, Declan, I'm done giving. The elevator pinged softly. Security had arrived. 2 men in black uniforms stepped out, faces calm. Rosalind tilted her head toward the door. He's ready to leave. Declan stared, lips trembling with shock and rage. You'll regret this, he growled low. You think you've won? I have everything: position, reputation, influence. I'll make you crawl back begging. Rosalind cut him off with a faint, serene smile. When you're in that room, remember, everything you're proud of, I allowed you to have, and I just revoked that permission. He shot her a hateful glare, grabbed a suitcase, and stumbled out. The door slammed, echoing through the vast apartment. For a moment, absolute silence. Rosalind leaned against the wall, hand on her belly. Her child stirred softly, and she took a deep breath, feeling pain morph into something else, something solid, cold, and bright. Resolve. She picked up her phone, dialing the second number in her contacts. Arthur, she said, voice steady. I need you to arrange an emergency board meeting for Friday and contact Genevieve Dubois. Tell her I want divorce proceedings started at dawn. Silence on the other end, then a low voice. It's really time, isn't it, Rosalind? She looked out the window. Boston sparkled under the night lights, like a giant chessboard awaiting her first move. Yes, she said softly. It's time the Queen left exile. 3 days after the gala, Boston's sky was heavy with gray, cold drizzle falling relentlessly on Beaumont Innovations' glass windows. In the chairman's office on the 50th floor, a secret meeting unfolded known only to 3. Rosalind, Arthur Pembroke, and Maria Flores, the CFO. Rosalind sat across from them, hands clasped over her belly. The morning light made her face clear yet sharp as a blade. Gone was the humiliated woman from the gala. Now she was the true heir of Beaumont, rewriting the order. Arthur opened a thick file. We have many ways to take him down, Rosalind, but I suspect you don't just want him fired. She nodded slightly. I want him to burn himself. I want it done by the book. No one needs to see my hand in it. Maria flipped a page, her voice icy. Project Chimera. The strategy draft Finch is pitching to the board. He's inflating numbers, hiding costs, and stretching budgets to legitimize a multi-million-dollar acquisition deal. If we let him run unchecked, the company could lose decades of financial stability. Rosalind scanned the printouts, her eyes pausing on a small name at the bottom. Kenji Tanaka, mid-level software engineer. Kenji developed Prometheus, didn't he? Maria nodded. Yes, an internal algorithm with massive potential. Finch sidelined him, said it was unfeasible. 3 weeks later, Prometheus's core modules appeared in Chimera's pitch. He thought no one would notice. A thin smile curved Rosalind's lips. Good. Then we'll let him present his own idea to the board and Kenji will confirm it's not his. Arthur looked up. A public counterstrike? No, Rosalind said, voice calm. A legal one. Meanwhile, Declan Finch basked in his victory. The past 3 days brought countless congratulations from colleagues, even those who once dismissed him now scrambling to align with him. His new apartment, shared with Bianca, overflowed with flowers, wine, and praise. Bianca lounged on the sofa, giggling as she read internal posts lauding Finch's strategic genius. You're really getting that promotion, Declan. They say the board's just waiting for the parent company's chairman to sign off. He sipped whiskey, smirking. Of course, I played every move right. But in that moment of confidence, the doors Rosalind opened were silently closing around him. Arthur, per her orders, treated Declan like the company's brightest star. His reports were approved faster. His risky proposals nodded through. Even Maria sent an email praising his visionary foresight. Declan's ego swelled like a balloon. One morning, Arthur summoned him to his office, voice grave. The board is impressed with Project Chimera. They want you to present again this time, on the 50th floor. In the main boardroom. Declan's eyes gleamed. The 50th floor? The executive boardroom? Yes, and you'll love this. The parent company's chairman is flying in to attend. She wants to hear Beaumont's future vision directly from you. He could barely believe it. A mysterious woman, rumored to be a European investor, holding the largest stake in the conglomerate. Her presence meant this meeting was his coronation. As Declan left, Arthur closed his notebook, glancing at Rosalind by the window, her smile thin as a cut. You sure? He asked. If he presents, he'll have no way back. That's the point, she replied. I want him to build his own gallows with his words. That night, Rosalind didn't sleep. She sat in a small hotel room on Beacon Street, city lights reflecting on the window. Before her were her father's old notes, scribbles about how to spot an ambitious man without a soul. She read slowly, his voice echoing in her memory. You don't need to fight with strength. Just give a greedy man what he wants, then watch him destroy himself. She smiled faintly. Declan had everything he wanted. Attention, power, admiration, and the noose tightening around his neck. She opened her laptop, sending a brief email to Arthur. Ensure Kenji Tanaka is at the meeting. Prepare all Prometheus documents. I'll arrive on time. She shut the laptop, gazing at the city. The rain hadn't stopped, but the sky seemed brighter. In the mirror, her face showed no hesitation. Across town, Declan and Bianca clinked glasses to the big day ahead. He laughed loudly, the laugh of a man who believed himself invincible. Rosalind whispered to herself, Climb high, Declan. The higher you go, the harder you fall. The next 3 days passed in contrasting preparations. Declan polished his legacy pitch. Rosalind finalized her execution plan. Genevieve Dubois, the renowned divorce lawyer, sent the first draft. Every asset in Rosalind's name was airtight. Declan had no loopholes to exploit. She also had Maria gather all internal emails, server logs, and Prometheus source code copies. Seeing the near-identical code between the projects, she knew she had her weapon. Perfect, she said, voice soft but firm. Tomorrow, we end this. Maria looked at her, half worried, half admiring. You know he won't just lose his job, right? Rosalind nodded lightly. He'll lose everything. Reputation, career, his illusions of himself. I'm just restoring the world's proper order. The night before the meeting, Declan stood before a mirror, adjusting his tie. Bianca wrapped her arms around his neck, whispering, Tomorrow's your day. I'm so proud. He kissed her, grinning broadly. Tomorrow, I'll have it all. Across town, Rosalind rested her hand on her belly, feeling her child move. She looked out the window, lights twinkling like 1,000 watching eyes. Tomorrow, Declan will get what he deserves. That morning, Boston was crisp and cold, the sky clear as polished glass. Declan Finch woke early, adrenaline coursing through him the day he believed he'd join the true elite. He chose a charcoal gray tailored suit, white shirt, and a navy tie with Beaumont's logo Power's color. Every gesture gleamed like steel. Bianca stood by the window, sipping espresso, watching him in the mirror. You look like an elected president, she said, voice airy. Declan grinned, kissing her lightly. After today you won't say like, you'll say is. She laughed, drunk on borrowed power. A company car picked him up at the lobby. As the elevator climbed to the 50th floor, his heart beat in time with the clock. This was the moment he dreamed of since joining Beaumont. Standing shoulder to shoulder with founders, shaping the future. The doors opened. Light flooded the hallway, lined with portraits of past leaders. The massive mahogany table gleamed, surrounded by 20 high-backed leather chairs. At the head sat Arthur Pembroke, calm as ever. Welcome, Declan, he said, voice neutral. The board is ready. Declan strode in, smile confident. I'm honored. He scanned the room. One chair at the table's end stood empty, the power seat, reserved for the conglomerate's chairman. He thought, soon she'd sit there, the mysterious woman he needed to impress. He adjusted his collar, took a deep breath. The chairman isn't here yet? He asked, feigning casualness. Arthur replied, eyes on his papers. She's on her way. She requested we start on time and will join mid-presentation to avoid disruption. Declan nodded, connecting his laptop to the projector. As the large screen descended, light reflected on his face, making his eyes blaze. He began his pitch with a radiant smile, voice confident and rhythmic. Ladies and gentlemen, the future isn't something we wait for, it's something we build, and Project Chimera is the path to that future. He spoke of vision, markets, innovation, every word calculated, every slide chosen to persuade. For 45 minutes, Declan was a conductor, leading the room with his voice. He presented the breakthrough algorithm stolen from Kenji Tanaka as his own genius. Speaking of unprecedented efficiency, global scalability, and the legacy we'll leave. The room stayed silent, save for soft pen taps and the hum of air conditioning. Declan ended with his signature line. With Chimera, we're not just building a product, we're building the future of the industry. He looked up, smile widening. Polite applause followed, just enough to stroke his ego. In his mind, the VP title was already his. Arthur stood, nodding slightly. Thank you, Declan. An ambitious presentation. Before the board asks questions, one last matter. The door at the room's rear opened softly. The sound cut the air like a blade. All eyes turned. Declan looked and his world froze. Rosalind stepped in. She wore a sharp gray suit, hair neatly pinned, her face serene, not the humiliated pregnant wife, but the embodiment of absolute power. Her steps were light, but her heels echoed like a proclamation. The board stood in unison. Arthur bowed slightly, voice formal. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce the chairman and majority shareholder of Beaumont Innovations, Mrs. Rosalind Beaumont. Silence exploded. Declan stood petrified. Words lost meaning in his mind. Chairman, majority shareholder, Mrs. Beaumont. Impossible. He forced a dry laugh, struggling to rise. Arthur, is this a joke? Arthur didn't answer. He sat, hands clasped. Rosalind approached the empty chair, not sitting, just standing, her gaze piercing Declan. Hello, Mr. Finch, she said, voice even and cold. I believe you just gave a very impressive presentation. He opened his mouth, but no sound came. She continued, her voice like wind cutting glass. You spoke of the future. I'm here to talk about the truth. No one moved. No one breathed loudly. Rosalind turned to Arthur. Mr. Pembroke, may we bring in our special guest? A side door opened. A young man stepped in. Kenji Tanaka, holding a tablet, his face resolute. Declan stepped back, sweat beading on his forehead. Rosalind gestured. The screen shifted, displaying Project Prometheus lines of code, charts, and dates overlapping. This is Mr. Tanaka's work, she said clearly. Presented 3 months ago to Mr. Finch and rejected as infeasible. Yet, curiously, Mr. Finch's Project Chimera matches Prometheus down to the code. Declan stammered, face flushing. That's a coincidence. He's just a junior employee. Rosalind raised an eyebrow. A coincidence? And the emails you sent to accounting, backdating Chimera's expenses to inflate profits, also a coincidence? She snapped her fingers. Maria stepped forward from the corner, placing a file on the table. Server logs, financial records, full evidence. Rosalind's voice dropped, each word heavy as a hammer. You said the future demands leaving burdens behind. You were right, Declan. Beaumont will shed its burden, and that burden is you. The room erupted in silence. Declan paled, turning to Arthur for sympathy, finding only cold detachment. Rosalind faced the table, her voice a verdict. Mr. Finch's contract is terminated immediately for fraud and ethical violations. Security, escort him out. 2 guards appeared. Declan thrashed, shouting, You can't do this to me. I built everything. No. Rosalind cut in, voice like steel. I allowed you to build, and now I'm taking that allowance back. She turned away, taking the chairman's seat. The room froze. Declan's footsteps echoed as he was led out, blending with the wind outside, the sound of a once-praised name fading. Rosalind gazed out the glass window, Boston gleaming under the sun. In her eyes, no triumph, only inevitability. The boardroom door closed behind Declan Finch with a dry click, like the end of an era. 2 guards escorted him down the marble hallway, ceiling lights reflecting on his face, shifting from flushed to ashen. Office workers paused, silent, watching the man once hailed as success incarnate led away. No one spoke. No one met his eyes. They watched him pass, coffee cups and papers frozen in midair, a wordless farewell ritual. Declan laughed dryly, clinging to pride. "Don't look at me like that. I'll be back, you hear?" But his voice rang hollow. Every echo returned cold. As the elevator doors closed, the last thing he saw was Rosalind's calm face through the glass, the look of a judge done delivering her sentence. Inside the boardroom, the air remained thick, like after a storm. Rosalind rested her hands on the table, her voice warm yet firm. "I apologize for the spectacle, but sometimes, cleansing requires a painful surgery." She turned to Kenji Tanaka, still standing stunned. "Thank you, Kenji. Your integrity reminds us that true value comes from those who work in silence." Kenji bowed, eyes bright with emotion. Rosalind faced Arthur. "Prepare a promotion contract for him. I want Prometheus as our flagship project." Arthur smiled, a rare nod of approval. He knew the girl who once wept at her father's funeral had become the woman leading an empire. News spread faster than any internal email. Within an hour, all of Beaumont knew Declan Finch was fired for fraud. A brief memo went out. "Mr. Declan Finch is no longer with Beaumont Innovations, effective immediately. We wish him well in future endeavors." But the hallways buzzed. Whispers became texts, then stories. Someone said Finch was dragged out by security. Another claimed the mysterious chairman appeared. The tale spread like wildfire in a dry forest. In the marketing office, Bianca Slater got the news via internal chat. She laughed, thinking it a joke. But when she swiped her card at the elevator, the light flashed red access denied. A cold dread ran down her spine. She rushed to the front desk, demanding answers. The HR manager appeared with a guard, faces calm. "Miss Slater, please come with us. Your contract is terminated for ethical violations and involvement in Mr. Finch's fraud." Everything slowed. Her footsteps echoed emptily on the floor, the clatter of packing her expensive belongings into a cardboard box. No one spoke. No one looked. The silence was heavier than any insult. She left the building into the late afternoon's cold wind, her face still perfectly made up, but her eyes shattered. The glass doors reflected a stranger, an outsider in a game she thought she'd won. Meanwhile, Rosalind didn't celebrate. She sat alone in the empty boardroom, afternoon light streaming through ceiling-high windows. Outside, Boston pulsed, its people moving on with their lives. Arthur tapped the table. "Your father would be proud." Rosalind smiled wearily. "He always said justice doesn't need force, just light." Today, the light was enough. Arthur nodded. "But the real victory isn't punishing the wicked, it's rebuilding what they broke. Are you ready for the hardest part?" Rosalind looked to the skyline. "Yes, now we rebuild Beaumont." That evening, she returned to her small hotel in Beacon Hill, where soft yellow light bathed the oak floors. She sat by the window, gazing at the ancient cobblestone streets. A new peace settled in, not fragile calm, but the stillness after a storm, when everything is clear. Her phone rang. It was Genevieve Dubois. "The divorce is on track." Genevieve's voice was steady, sharp. "He's reacting, of course, but your prenup is ironclad, no lawyer would dare drag this out." "We'll wrap it up soon," Rosalind replied softly. "Thank you. And ensure the press doesn't spin this into sensationalism. I don't need to be a victim, I just need the truth." Genevieve chuckled. "I understand. A queen doesn't complain, she commands." Hanging up, Rosalind leaned back. In her mind flashed Declan's stunned face as she entered the boardroom. No anger, no pain, just an odd emptiness, as if she'd restored the universe's necessary balance. She opened her laptop, drafting a company-wide message. The first line was simple. "From today, Beaumont Innovations will be led by the values my father founded it on: innovation, transparency, integrity. Anyone with talent, at any level, will have a voice. Anyone who deceives, at any position, will leave." She paused, adding a final line. "This isn't just my company, it's our legacy." She hit send. Outside, a light rain began. Each drop washed away remnants of the past. The next morning, Beaumont felt different. Employees moved faster, eyes brighter. Whispers turned to lively discussions about the new chairman, the woman who dared stand against power. In the chairman's office, Rosalind stood by the glass, Looking down at the city, sunlight pierced the clouds, hitting the desk where a new nameplate gleamed. Rosalind Beaumont, chairwoman. She touched the oak desk, warmth spreading. This wasn't a victory of revenge, but the start of a new order. 3 days after his firing, Declan Finch sat in a temporary apartment in Back Bay, surrounded by suitcases and unwashed whiskey glasses. The TV's light flickered on his gaunt face, eyes bloodshot. His name flooded the internet. Tech blogs screamed. Future VP sacked quietly, insider sources cite algorithm fraud. Declan hurled the remote at the wall, plastic shattered. "Rosalind, you dare ruin me?" he growled, voice thick with liquor. Bianca sat in the corner, curled in a robe. Fear crept beneath her skin. She'd never seen him like this, not the confident, charming man, but a wounded child in a man's body. "You should calm down, Declan. We can hire a lawyer. Maybe, he snapped, smashing a glass on the floor. "You know you lost your job because of me? It's all her. She tricked me, that bitch set a trap." Bianca fell silent. A chill ran down her spine. She realized the man she thought was a hero was just a petulant boy in a suit. He slumped into a chair, head in hands. "I won't let her win, you hear? I'll take it all back. I'll make her beg on her knees in public like she made me beg before the board." 2 days later, Sterling and Ross's law office in downtown Boston got a call from Declan Finch. Sterling Ross, a lawyer notorious for personal revenge cases among executives, entered the meeting with a razor-thin smile. "Mr. Finch, I've reviewed the file. Your ex-wife, sorry, chairman of Beaumont Innovations, seems quite powerful." Declan gritted his teeth. "She's not my ex yet. I won't let her have that. I want to sue her for everything. The prenup, wrongful termination, emotional distress. I want her to lose what she values most." Sterling raised an eyebrow, arms crossed, smile cold. "What she values most, you say? For people like her, reputation is blood. I can make the press bleed for her. But understand, this fight will be dirty. The dirtier, the better," Declan replied, voice low, swallowing his own humiliation. Meanwhile, at Beaumont, Rosalind met Genevieve Dubois in a small 48th floor boardroom. Outside, Boston was dreary, but inside, the air was taut as a wire. "Sterling Ross," Genevieve said, sliding a file toward Rosalind. "He's the type to smear opponents in the media rather than fight in court. He'll use every trick to paint you as the villain." Rosalind smiled faintly. "I'm used to being misjudged. Let him try." Genevieve tilted her head, eyes sharp. "You need to understand, Rosalind. We have legal proof, an unbreakable prenup. But if he goes public with personal details, the media won't stop. They'll dig into your pregnancy, your father's legacy, even how you took him down. Are you ready?" Rosalind gazed out at the fog-draped skyscrapers. "When my father died, I swore to protect this company from men like Declan. If staying silent to save face betrays him, I've already lost." Genevieve nodded, her gaze softening for a moment, admiration mixed with concern for a woman stepping into a media storm. 2 weeks later, the storm hit. The Boston Tribune ran an exclusive. Beaumont chairman's wife deceives husband, schemes to oust employee for company control. The article oozed malice, quoting close sources, Bianca's twisted words, staged by Sterling. TV stations buzzed. Photos from the gala, Declan embracing Bianca, Rosalind standing quietly in the background, were edited into a villain's narrative. Arthur slammed the paper down. "Disgusting. They're making you a monster." Rosalind folded it calmly. "It's fine. Let them talk. When the truth comes out, the public will correct itself." Arthur frowned. "And your plan?" She stood, voice low but firm. "If they want to hear about the woman behind Beaumont, I'll let them hear the real story. I'm done hiding in the shadows." 3 days later, Rosalind appeared in an exclusive Wall Street Journal interview. No tears, no accusations. She spoke of Beaumont, her father's innovation philosophy, her belief that a company's strength lies not in power, but in integrity. When asked, "What about your husband?" she smiled faintly. "I'm no one's wife anymore. I'm the guardian of a legacy. And sometimes, guarding means cutting away what's rotten." The interview went viral. Beaumont's stock briefly dipped, soared. Public opinion flipped. Those who gossiped now hailed her as a leader rebuilding justice. Declan, seeing the news, smashed his phone, His smear attempts backfired. Investors turned away. Sterling Ross, sensing defeat, dodged his calls. "No way," he muttered, staring at a TV showing Rosalind exiting Beaumont's headquarters amid flashing cameras. She still wins. Bianca watched silently, eyes hollow. "She didn't need to destroy you, Declan. You did that yourself." He spun, furious. "What did you say?" "She just pulled back the curtain. You're the one who burned the stage." Declan stood frozen, speechless. In the mirror, the man staring back wasn't the powerful figure he knew, only a gaunt face, clouded eyes, and trembling hands. The hands of a man who'd lost everything. Boston's autumn wind swept through brick-lined streets, carrying old newspapers with outdated headlines. Beaumont's stunning recovery under young chairwoman. But in a rundown South Boston apartment, Declan Finch no longer cared about the world outside. The room reeked of cigarettes and cheap liquor. Papers, bills, and court summonses littered the table. He'd sold most possessions to pay legal fees, but Sterling Ross abandoned him when the case grew hopeless. Bianca left 2 weeks earlier, leaving a note. "I can't live with a man who only knows blame." Declan read it every night, like a self-inflicted indictment. He'd lost everything: reputation, money, status, and now the last woman who stood by him. On his laptop screen, Rosalind appeared in a morning finance report, in a white suit, signing a deal to expand Prometheus into Europe. Camera flashes sparkled. Her face was calm, confident, reborn. Declan's throat tightened. "She keeps going, like I never existed." He slammed the laptop shut, fists clenched. Rage surged, the only emotion he had left. But beneath it, fear, a fear of facing himself, of admitting all he lost was his own doing. At Beaumont, Rosalind began rebuilding from the ground up. She revamped internal evaluations, revived sidelined projects, and empowered those Declan had dismissed. Arthur entered her office one afternoon, holding a quarterly revenue report. 30% growth in 2 months, he said, a rare smile flickering. "I think William would approve." Rosalind smiled, setting down her tea. "I'm just doing what he always believed, that a company is only as strong as the trust in its people." She looked out at Boston's sunlit harbor, small boats drifting lazily. But sometimes, trust is what makes us most vulnerable. Arthur understood. She still thought of Declan not with love, but as a haunting lesson. Misplaced trust could burn an empire. That afternoon, an unmarked envelope arrived at her desk. Inside was a photo. Declan in a dim bar, eyes sunken, unshaven. On the back, scrawled in marker, "I won't disappear. I'll take it all back." Rosalind stared at the note. No fear, but a chill. Not from the threat, but from knowing Declan wasn't one to accept defeat. She called Arthur, voice calm. "Increase security. I want guards at the building and my home, even at night." Arthur paused, then asked softly, "You think he'll do something reckless?" "It's not what I think," she said. "It's what I know." That night, Declan dreamed again, a recurring nightmare. He stood in the 50th floor boardroom, blinding light in his face. Rosalind appeared at the table's end, in her gray suit, holding a champagne glass. "You toasted the future," she said, voice echoing. "But the future doesn't need you," he screamed, hurling the glass at her. It shattered midair, fragments turning into Beaumont logos raining down. He woke, soaked in sweat. The clock read 3 a.m. He stepped onto the balcony, staring at the empty street. In his mind, 1,000 whispers, colleagues' laughter, the gala's applause, and her voice, cold and clear. "You're the burden." He gripped the railing until his knuckles bled. "No, Rosalind, I'm the one who made it all. Without me, you're nothing." The next week, rumors spread of Declan planning a countersuit. Tabloid reporters hunted his neighborhood, seeking a new story. But they found only a broken man, unshaven, hands shaking with cheap liquor. Asked, "Will you take revenge on your ex-wife?" He laughed dryly. "I don't have an ex-wife. I have a thief." Meanwhile, Rosalind pressed forward. One afternoon, she spoke at the Global Tech Conference in New York, on ethics and innovation. Her speech brought the room to its feet, not just for her words, but for the quiet strength in her voice. We can create world-changing technology, but without ethics, it's just a tool for destruction. Integrity isn't a value, it's the foundation. As she stepped off the stage, Arthur whispered, Rosalind, you've reclaimed more than the company. You've reclaimed your voice. She smiled, soft but genuine, and I plan to keep it forever. But that night, as her plane landed in Boston, an anonymous text appeared on her phone. I said I wouldn't disappear. See you soon, Rosalind. No number, just random characters. She stared at the screen, then locked it. Her father's voice echoed. Strength isn't just standing firm, it's knowing when to defend. She called Arthur. I want security tracking Declan Finch's every move. If he leaves Boston, I want to know. Arthur replied softly. You think he'd dare do something? Rosalind gazed out the taxi window, streetlights flashing like memories. A man who's lost everything has nothing left to lose. That's what makes him dangerous. Boston sank into a thick winter night. Snow fell lightly, blanketing the streets around Beaumont Innovations, turning the city into a deceptively serene painting. But on the 50th floor, where lights never dimmed, Rosalind Beaumont worked on. On her desk lay designs for Prometheus 2, an AI logistics optimizer. She read proposals, annotating in neat script. Keyboard clicks echoed, interrupted only by wind howling past giant glass windows. Arthur Pembroke entered, carrying tea. Still working? Rosalind looked up, smiling tiredly. Can't stop. The validation phase is due by week's end. I want to review everything. Arthur set the tea down, sitting across. Trust me, no system runs perfectly if its driver doesn't sleep. She chuckled. My father said the same. Arthur studied her. He also said something else. When the past knocks, know when not to open. The words halted her. She met his unusually grave gaze. What's wrong, Arthur? He sighed, pulling an envelope from his coat. Security sent a report. Declan Finch emptied his last account, sold his car, and vanished from Boston. No one knows where. Rosalind fell silent. Outside, snow drifted past the glass. I guessed, she said slowly, he wouldn't stay quiet. We think he's planning to sabotage you or the company, Arthur said. There's talk he contacted old investors, claiming he has classified documents proving Beaumont faked Prometheus data. Rosalind frowned. He's desperate, but desperation makes people dangerous. 100 miles from Boston, in a small town, Declan Finch sat in a cheap bar, clutching an old phone. His screen showed emails sent over 2 days to investors, news outlets, tech bloggers, all titled, Proof Beaumont Faked Prometheus. No replies. He laughed hoarsely. Idiots? They think she's a saint? They forgot I'm the one who made it? A man at the bar glanced over. Who you talking to, buddy? Declan turned, smile twisted. The past. It's clingy, you know? The man nodded and left, leaving Declan in aching silence. Neon lights revealed his weary lines. He drained his glass, opened his laptop. In a private folder were hundreds of old Beaumont emails, mostly mundane, but a few unreleased Prometheus reports were enough to fake a grand conspiracy. A wild grin spread. You want to play clean, Rosalind? I'll play dirty for you. 2 days later, the news broke. An anonymous tech blog posted, Beaumont Innovations and the dirty truth behind Prometheus. It cited leaked documents, accusing the company of data manipulation and stealing from a startup, exactly what Declan had done, now twisted to smear Rosalind. The story spread. Beaumont's stock dipped slightly. Reporters began asking questions. Arthur rushed to her office. We need to respond now. We traced the leak's IP to a Springfield bar matches Finch's location data. Rosalind set her coffee down, voice eerily calm. I expected this. He can't live without attention. But we won't strike back. Arthur's eyes widened. Not strike back? He's destroying your reputation. She gazed out at the snowy haze. We don't need to attack. We just show the truth. Arrange a press conference. Have Kenji and the engineers present Prometheus's full structure. I want the source code public before experts. Let the world see who's lying. Arthur stared, torn between worry and awe. You're betting everything? No, she said. Voice light but firm. I'm betting on the light. 3 days later, Beaumont's auditorium was packed with press and experts. Rosalind took the stage. No notes, no script, saying only, when someone tries to scare you with darkness, the only way to fight is to turn on the light. She revealed Prometheus's entire development, letting Kenji and the engineers display every line of code, every test, every proof of ownership, all transparent. Undeniable. 2 hours later, tech experts confirmed. No fraud. Prometheus is fully internal, independent. The narrative flipped. The blog was taken down. Reporters traced the IP to Declan Finch. Cyber police began investigating corporate defamation. That evening, Rosalind returned home late. She stood by the window, Boston aglow with lights. No triumph filled her, only a quiet sadness. Arthur called. "You won. The press is hailing you as a transparency icon." She replied softly. "No one truly wins fighting the past, Arthur. I just closed a door that should have been locked long ago." At that moment, police knocked on Declan's door. He opened it, smile crooked. "Finally, I just wanted the world to know the truth." The officer sighed. "The truth isn't something you fabricate, Mr. Finch." As the door closed, red lights flashed through the snowy night, reflecting on damp walls. Declan bowed his head, his shadow stretching long, distorted, alone, fading as the light died. Spring returned to Boston after a harsh winter. The city shed its snow and old memories, embracing a new rhythm like Beaumont Innovations. Under Rosalind Beaumont's leadership, the company not only survived the media storm but expanded into AI-driven healthcare research. Yet, for Rosalind, a new dawn didn't mean peace. Outside, she was the victorious woman, strong, wise, dubbed Boston's tech renaissance queen by the press. Inside, she felt an unnamed void. That morning, she sat in her 50th floor office, gazing at the sunlit streets below. Arthur entered, holding a thick file. Prometheus Health got funding. The EU approved an extra $20 million. It's a big step. Rosalind nodded. Good. Kenji and the team will need all the resources. Arthur studied her. And you? Have you slept? She smiled faintly. Sleep's a luxury, Arthur. When a company's growing, every dream has a price. Not the company, Rosalind, you, he said softly. You've silenced the past, but silencing doesn't mean healing. Rosalind fell silent. Outside, Boston glowed, but in her eyes lingered fragments from that snowy night when he vanished. That evening, she returned to her brownstone in Beacon Hill. The space was cozy, scented with wood and vanilla. Willow, her baby girl, slept peacefully in her crib, her face sweet as an angel's. Rosalind sat beside her, stroking her fine hair. You'll never know that world's cruelty, she whispered. I won't let it touch you. But her eyes, reflected in the window, weren't as calm as before. Deep within, a part of her remained awake. Days later, news of Declan Finch hit the papers. Former Beaumont exec, released on bail, awaiting trial for corporate defamation and data leaks. Rosalind folded the paper, silent. Arthur visited that afternoon. He's out. I can arrange to keep him away. She shook her head. No need. I'm not afraid of him anymore. People can only hurt you when you still care. Arthur understood. She wasn't afraid of Declan, but of what he'd left in her, a doubt in herself, in her ability to trust again. A week later, Rosalind attended Beaumont's 30th anniversary gala at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts, where it all began. Standing in the grand hall, she felt the stones echo that night. Blinding lights, cruel applause, and collapse. This time, she wore a simple black gown, elegant. Eyes turned in awe as she entered. No longer the quiet wife behind her husband, she was the center, crafting the company's new legend. Arthur raised a glass. 30 years ago, William Beaumont started with an idea. Today, his daughter makes it a legacy. Applause roared. Rosalind smiled, thanking each guest. But for a moment, she glimpsed a figure at the entrance. Tall, lean, in a gray coat, hair slightly tousled. His gaze met hers for a second, then vanished into the crowd. She froze. Arthur noticed her shift. Rosalind, what's wrong? She shook her head. Nothing, just a flicker of a ghost. But the feeling lingered. Some ghosts don't need to die to return. That night, returning home, she found an envelope at her door. No postmark, no sender, just a handwritten line. I saw you shine, and I wonder, does light still matter when it's born from darkness? Inside was an old photo, the gala. Declan stood beside her, smiling confidently, arm around her waist. Behind them, Arthur's warm smile and Bianca watching from afar. Rosalind stared at the photo. Her hand trembled faintly, not from fear, but from realizing this wasn't just a threat. It was a reminder. A piece of the past she'd tried to bury still lived. She burned the photo in the fireplace. It curled, glowed red, turned to ash. But as the flames died, Willow's soft cry came from her room. Rosalind rushed to her, lifting her, soothing. "It's okay. Mommy's here." But in her eyes, a flash of fear not for herself, but for the innocent child born from a past she couldn't erase. The next day, she called Arthur. "Check the security around my house. I want to know who came last night." His voice was grave. "You think it's him?" Rosalind looked out at the spring rain. "I don't know, but if it is, I won't let him hide in the dark anymore." That afternoon, a black car parked at the street's end. Inside, Declan Finch sat, peering through a camera lens. He didn't snap photos, just watched. She was so different now. Her light made him feel small, insignificant. And for a moment, amid the hatred, he felt something he'd never faced. Regret. But regret couldn't save him. No one was left to hear him, and the light from the house ahead only deepened his darkness. He started the car, driving off, leaving behind a photo on the passenger seat, the original of the envelope's image, half torn. One foggy Boston morning, the city woke in muted light. Rosalind stood at her 50th floor window, sipping coffee as the streets below brightened with commuters. Everything seemed normal, too normal, making her uneasy. Since the photo arrived, she felt watched. At first, she thought it was paranoia, a shadow of Declan's chaos. But each time she left home, a black car lingered at the corner, no plates. No clear driver, just a presence. In her office, Arthur entered, face tense. "Rosalind, you need to see this." He placed a thick police-stamped file on her desk. She opened it. Blurry surveillance photos from her neighborhood. One showed a man under a street lamp. Cap low, a chillingly familiar silhouette. "We confirmed it's Declan," Arthur said. "He's been lurking around Beacon Hill for 3 nights. Police are tracking him, but he hasn't broken any laws." Rosalind closed her eyes briefly. "He's testing me, seeing if I'm scared." Arthur clenched his jaw. "You can't let him roam free like this. I can get a restraining order." "No," she said, voice steady. "If I show fear, he wins. I don't need a restraining order, I need an end." Arthur stared long. "An end how?" She turned, eyes blazing. "By making him face who he really is." Meanwhile, Declan Finch drifted through a Dorchester rental. For days, he'd wandered the city, unsure what he sought. Sometimes he thought he wanted to apologize. But remembering the boardroom humiliation dragged out like a criminal, his pride reignited. He opened his laptop, replaying an old phone video. Rosalind entering the boardroom, eyes like knives, her voice echoing, "You're the burden." He slammed the table. "No, I made it all. Without me, she's nothing." His words echoed hollow. He knew he was lying to himself, but couldn't stop. Hatred and shame fused, a fire consuming his sanity. 3 days later, Rosalind addressed the annual shareholder meeting, broadcast live. In a crisp white suit, she shone like power itself. Beaumont isn't just a company. It's a promise that integrity can still exist in this world. The room stood, applauding. Amid the glowing faces, she glimpsed a figure at the back, gray coat, dark eyes. Her heart stopped, but when she looked again, he was gone. After the meeting, Arthur approached. "You okay?" "Maybe," she said, "or maybe not." That night, returning to her brownstone, Willow slept soundly. The house was quiet, firelight flickering. Rosalind sat, reviewing her morning speech. Everything was perfect, except one detail. In the video's final seconds, as the camera panned the crowd, a face flashed in the corner, Declan Finch, staring at her, a faint smile on his lips. She paused the video, heart racing. It wasn't a ghost, he was there, hidden in the light. The next morning she arrived at the office early. Arthur was waiting. "We checked the guest list," she said. "Already done," he replied. His name wasn't on it. He might have slipped in with a temp badge. Rosalind mused. "I want him to hear. I want him to see I'm not afraid." Arthur frowned. "What's your plan?" She answered softly. "An exclusive interview, my first time talking about it all. Him, the betrayal, justice." Arthur was stunned. "You'd bring it up on TV?" She met his gaze, resolute. "Sometimes, the only way to kill darkness is to shine a light right through it. If he's living in the past, I'll destroy that past publicly, transparently." Arthur fell silent. When Rosalind Beaumont decided no one could stop her. 2 weeks later, the interview was filmed in a downtown Boston studio. Soft lighting, dark backdrop, just her and the host. "Rosalind," the host asked, "if you could say one thing to the person who betrayed you, what would it be?" She looked straight into the camera. "I'd say thank you. You taught me that power isn't held through ambition, but through justice." Her words rang, calm yet mighty. In a small bar, Declan watched on an old TV. Hearing her, he didn't yell or smash his glass as before. He sat still, eyes empty. A tear rolled down his cheek, not from hate, but from a belated realization. He turned off the TV, stood. In the mirror, he barely recognized himself, a once arrogant man, now a shadow. That night, Rosalind returned home, tired but unburdened. She lifted Willow, kissing her forehead. "We've come far, my girl." Outside, early snow fell, dusting Beacon Hill's streets. She didn't know. Blocks away, Declan stood in the dark, watching her house through frosted glass. This time, his eyes held no hatred, only emptiness, and a hoarse whisper carried by the cold wind. "I'm sorry, Rosalind. I just wanted to see you happy, one last time." Boston drowned in heavy rain, water streaking down Rosalind's apartment windows. The patter on the roof mingled with wind through the trees, a somber melody. She sat alone in her small study, a warm lamplight on her weary but resolute face. The evening news replayed her interview, her words on justice, forgiveness, and "no one can touch me anymore." But a strange unease stirred within her. A question echoed, "Does forgiveness truly set you free?" For deep inside, memories lingered of the man who made her believe in love before he destroyed it entirely. Across town, in South Boston, Declan Finch trudged through empty alleys, his coat soaked, shoes caked in mud. He'd just left his usual bar, drinking his last cash-paid whiskey. Rosalind's TV voice echoed in his mind, each word cut, both painful and sobering. "I thank you for teaching me that true power comes from justice." Those words held no hate, only release, and that broke him. He'd planned to hate her forever, but in the cold rain, he felt only infinite emptiness. He was lost in the city he once ruled. The next morning, Rosalind was honored as Inspirational Leader of the Year. At the Fairmont's Grand Hall, she stepped onto the stage amid roaring applause, glowing under the lights. But as camera flashes sparked, she glimpsed a figure in the back row, tall, lean, gray coat. Her heart stopped. She knew who it was, even as he ducked from the lenses. Declan Finch. She continued her speech, but her grip tightened on the podium. Her words sounded strong, yet her heart raced. After the event, Arthur hurried over. "What's wrong, Rosalind? You're pale," she whispered. "He was there, Arthur. I saw him." Arthur froze, then nodded. "I'll handle it. He's violated the restraining order." "No." She paused. "Don't do anything. If he came, maybe he just wants to talk." Arthur stared, worried. "Rosalind, he nearly destroyed you." "Yes," she said softly. "But if I stay afraid, I'm the one locking myself up." That night, as she left the gala, rain fell again. She opened her umbrella, walking to the parking lot. There, under the dim street lamp, Declan waited. He was gaunt, face hollow, eyes tired, his voice rasped. "Rosalind." She stood still, gripping the umbrella. "You shouldn't be here." "I know." He smiled sadly. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry, before it's too late." She looked at him, no anger, no pity. "You had plenty of chances to apologize, Declan, when you humiliated me before hundreds, when you called me a burden, when you lied, stole, and tore down everything my father built." He nodded. "I know, and every night, I hear those words in my head." He pulled a crumpled envelope from his coat, hands shaking. "I wrote this, not for forgiveness, just so our daughter knows her father was a fool but not a monster." Rosalind froze. "Our daughter?" He nodded. "I know you gave birth. I saw the photo in the paper. I didn't dare come close, just watched from afar. I know I'm not worthy, but I needed to say goodbye, before I leave the city." A cold wind blew. Rain fell harder, veiling them in the past. Rosalind took the envelope, unopened. "Where will you go?" she asked. "Anywhere without memories," he said faintly. "Maybe California." There, no one cares who I was. She studied him long. In the lamplight, she saw the man who once made her laugh, made her believe love could change the world. Now, just an empty shell. She said softly, "If you're truly sorry, live decently, not for me, but for the child who doesn't know she carries your blood." Declan bowed his head. "I'll try. It's the only thing I can still do." He stepped back, turning. The rain swallowed him, until only his fading footsteps remained. Rosalind stood, clutching the envelope, feeling a chapter close. The next morning, she opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter, ink smudged by rain. "Rosalind, I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know, amid all the lies, my love for you was real. I just didn't know how to love. I tried to build a future on ambition, and lost the only person who made it mean anything. If there's another life, I'd choose again to stand behind you, quietly, as you deserve. Declan." Rosalind read, then folded it carefully. No tears she'd run dry long ago, only a strange peace, as if the final storm had passed. She looked out. Boston glowed post-rain. A chapter closed, and she knew this time, for good. That morning, at South Station, Declan boarded a westbound train. Dawn light pierced the windows, reflecting on his face. He closed his eyes, telling himself, maybe this is the best way to love, by disappearing. The train rolled, carrying him from the city, the past, the woman he destroyed, and the only one who ever made him truly human. 1 year later, Boston entered autumn, the sky clear, reflecting gold on the Charles River. Beacon Hill's streets blazed with red maples. At Beaumont Innovations' new glass headquarters, the company logo shone a symbol not just of tech, but of strength reborn from ruin. In the top-floor office, Rosalind held Willow, now toddling and babbling her first words. Her bright brown eyes sparkled like dawn. Rosalind whispered, "You know, Willow, everything here was built from pain, but now, I want you to grow up in light." She set her daughter in a small crib, gazing at a portrait on the wall, her father, William Beaumont, his kind smile and knowing eyes. "I did it, Dad," she said softly. "I protected your legacy, and found myself." Arthur knocked, entering with files. His stern face softened at Willow's sight. "Hello, Boston's youngest CEO," he grinned. "How many deals did you sign today?" Rosalind laughed. "Just a few with her drool, Arthur." He set the files down. "The company's stable. Prometheus Health got government funding for expansion. Global organizations call Beaumont the 21st century model." Rosalind nodded, voice low. "We've come far. But sometimes, Arthur, I wonder, can light exist without darkness?" He looked at her, calm. "No, Rosalind. Darkness gives light meaning. You turned what tried to destroy you into a foundation for the future. That's the real victory." That afternoon she met with Kenji Tanaka and the research team. Kenji shared results. "Our system's in over 30 hospitals. Efficiency's up 40%. We want to name the new version Willow Protocol to honor you and your daughter." The room applauded. Rosalind smiled, eyes glistening. "Willow," she echoed. "A willow soft but unbreakable, thank you." She stood, addressing the room. "I want everyone to remember, Beaumont isn't just tech. It's a promise that integrity can still live in this world." No one spoke, but their eyes held pride and trust. That evening, after Willow slept, Rosalind sat by the window, writing in an old leather journal. Its first page bore her father's words, "Lead with heart, not just mind." She added, "I've learned revenge never brings peace, only justice and truth do. I've forgiven, but not forgotten. Forgetting discards the lesson, forgiving transcends it." As she closed the book, the doorbell rang. A courier handed her a small package, no sender. Inside was a silver fountain pen, engraved, "For Rosalind, who taught me what strength truly means." "Hey, D." She stared at it long. No anger, no pain, just deep relief, a sign she'd truly moved on. Arthur called moments later. "Rosalind, news just came. Declan Finch died this morning. Car accident in Nevada." Silence fell. She sank into a chair, clutching the pen. Was he alone? Yes. No one was with him. Rosalind looked out. Moonlight bathed the city, splitting her reflection half light, half shadow. Maybe he finally found peace. Arthur said nothing more. Sometimes, silence was the kindest farewell. The next day, Rosalind visited an old Beacon Hill church. No funeral, no mourners. She placed a green willow sprig on a stone bench outside. "This is goodbye, Declan," she whispered. "I hope somewhere you learn to love without hurting." A breeze stirred the sprig. She felt a smile behind her. That afternoon, she returned to Beaumont, where Kenji presented a global expansion roadmap. On the glowing screen, Prometheus, reborn, appeared, with a willow bending in the wind. Rosalind stepped up, hand on the console. "We won't just innovate technology," she said firmly. "We'll innovate how people treat each other. This isn't just Beaumont's future, it's the future of humanity." The room fell silent, then erupted in applause. Arthur stood at the back, eyes misty, whispering, "William, do you hear? Your daughter's become what you always believed." That night, as Boston glowed, Rosalind carried Willow to the balcony. Stars twinkled, mirrored in her daughter's clear eyes. "You know," she said softly, "someday you'll hear about your father's mistakes, but I want you to remember, you're no one's shadow. You're light." Willow giggled, reaching for the stars. Rosalind smiled, humming softly. "True happiness isn't in revenge, but in rising after betrayal. And sometimes, the most beautiful light is born from the darkest shadows." She held her daughter close, gazing at the horizon where the city shone, endless and full of hope. Boston at night, lights dancing on the Charles River, sparkled as if darkness never existed. On Beaumont's top floor, Rosalind held Willow, smiling down at the city where every storm had passed. She'd lost a husband, her trust, herself, but gained what power couldn't buy, freedom of the soul. Sometimes, the cruelest thing isn't betrayal, but letting the past define you. Rosalind chose differently. She turned pain into strength, darkness into a canvas for light. As Arthur once said, "You didn't win by revenge. You won by daring to forgive." If you've been betrayed, fallen, remember, you don't need to be perfect to start again. You just need the courage to believe in yourself once more. If Rosalind's story makes you believe justice and humanity still exist, leave a comment below. Because sometimes, a single shared word can light up a soul lost in darkness.